At 7:13, hard to believe we've officially entered wildfire season again, and you're probably wondering what's been done post-Lahaina to make sure that we don't see anything like that happen again. That is the top of Civil Beat's Marcel Honoré's article this morning. Marcel, first of all, thanks for coming in.
Sure, of course.
Okay, so let's go over it. There's a lot of reflection. There's a lot of shoulda, coulda, wouldas. So what is new to make sure that everybody's safe this time?
So some of the key things that are new, kind of in the immediate, what can we do just even in this, first several months after Lahaina? You see a lot of the fire departments around the islands have new policies and protocols in place where at the first sign of even a red flag warning, we don't have smoke or anything like that, they are deploying staff and crew to these, quote unquote problem areas, the stations in the dry western parts of the islands. They're having, when there is a sign of a fire, they're sending out more tankers and more engines. I talked to Honolulu's fire chief, and he mentioned they're going to be before they would only send out one engine. Now they're sending out two engines and a tanker at the first sign of smoke to really make sure they can get ahead of this, have access, and try and contain the fire.
What about our utilities?
So the utilities, interestingly, some people might remember there's a lot of concern and scrutiny about the fact that they didn't have a plan to shut down the power in advance. Going into this new fire season that just started, both utilities do, actually, HECO is going to have something in place, they said, for July 1st. But basically, in the midst of this fire season, you are going to have the utilities with new protocols in place to do advanced widespread shutdowns if needed. They caution that's as a last resort because there are enormous consequences of just shutting down the power entirely.
Yeah.
But yeah, they also have other, that's kind of the big one, but they also have other policies in place where if a circuit trips, if it shows a sign of trouble, they will shut it down immediately in red flag and bad wildfire conditions.
Yeah, that came a huge talking point after the fires. Something interesting that you mentioned is that there's still so many communities, not just here on Oahu, but on all the other islands that are still just one way in, one way out, which is what we saw in Lahaina, which this mass confusion as far as evacuation. Right. What are counties doing to make sure that there is a way for these people to get out safely?
Right. So I brought that up with Honolulu's emergency planning director, Hiro Toya, and he mentioned that they're in constant conversation and communication post-Lahaina with other emergency personnel and fire crews, not necessarily to say, well, this is what we're going to do in this exact community and this exact community, but really their goal seems to be to just give, wherever the threat is, whether that's wildfire or some other sort of hazard event, to make sure that they are able to get as much advance warning out to that community as possible. So maybe we're not going to solve the fact that there's one way in and one way out, but really the idea, and we saw it in Lahaina, people were all of a sudden saying, oh my God, we've got to go. But really the lesson learned there is to just, in other words, the first time people are hearing about from these emergency officials, it's not to get out, right now. They've already gotten a lot of advance warning.
Okay, one more thing. Sure. We're kind of out of time, but at the same time, you talked to a lot of people.
Yeah.
You didn't hear back from Maui County.
Right.
How concerning is that?
It's a little worrisome. I mean, it's kind of another issue in and of itself where it can be a little difficult. I mean, that's like the one place where everybody's kind of interested. What are you guys doing?
Yeah.
That was the Maui fires in Lahaina. They said they weren't available for an interview for this story. So it is something that we're continuing to try and push and press for more access and to have more access to those officials to answer these kinds of questions.
And again, we're hoping for the best, prepare for the worst. Yeah. Marcel Honoré, thank you. We appreciate the time.
Thanks for having me.
By the way, you can read the full article on civilbeat.org or text 66866 to get their full newsletter. It's definitely worth a read. We'll be right back.